incredible. And the first plane I ever saw, I was 5 years old, and we lived in South Minneapolis in 1929. And a plane flew over, and I hadn't seen one before, and one of the kids ran down the street in the direction that the plane was going, hollering, "Lindy, Lindy." And it's funny the things you remember, isn't it? The primary flying training, we were there for 10 weeks, and we did fly. I flew after 8 hours of flying with the instructor, and that was quite an experience. I felt pretty good about it. I wasn't scared. I don't think any of them were, but maybe we should have been. But
Yeah.
So we got then we flew not every day, but almost every day on our own. And then we moved to Independence, Kansas, to what they called basic flying training. In primary flying, the engine was 195 horsepower. When we went to basic flying training, it was a radial engine of 450 horsepower and a low wing, all metal plane. And we could do a lot of acrobatics with that, which we did. But we also started learning cross-country flying, and we had to do that on our own after we were given the instructions, and the instructor would go with us and some. And then we graduated February 1st of 45 with our wings, and we were on our home base. Then it was going to be Memphis, Tennessee, but they sent us every week or two to Savannah, Georgia, and we were flying what we called war worries coming back from Europe, B-24s that had been bombing Germany, and they were bringing them all back, and they'd come into, for instance, Savannah, Georgia, and of course the field can't hold too many planes, so they keep shifting them out of there, flying them out. And one we did was to Jackson, Mississippi, and the weather was so bad, we got caught in it getting worse and worse, and we were all alone, that one plane. We got down to 300 feet off the ground, and fortunately we ran into a small town where there was a field big enough for us to land. So we got down there luckily, and then waited a day or two for the weather to clear up, and then we went on to Jackson, Tennessee. So those are the things that happened. He's saying we were discharged from the Air Force in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and then came home from there. And that I was home by the 10th of October of 45.
Okay. I knew that eventually I would be going in the service with everybody else, because everyone joined at that time. And I decided that I didn't want to join the Army or the Marines. I wanted to join the Navy, and my big idea was that you had a decent bed to sleep in, and you had food as long as you could keep on the boat without swimming. And what they did is how they determined who was going to do what on the ship, because when you're in GQ, everybody had a fighting station. We had two 50 caliber machine guns on the bow, on each side of the bow, on the ramp. And then we had the two 20 millimeters up by the conning tower and across right on the other side. Being as I was an electrician, and I had to either be a gun or work in with the crew. So. And I wasn't in the engine room. The electrician first class was there, so they tested us all out to see who would be the helms person. And so what they actually did was they'd point out a spot for you to go into the beach, and they tested all of us to see who could bring it in on board where it was supposed to be. And I wound up being the helms person. So anytime there was GQ, I went to the conning tower and was on the what do you call it? The wheel. And of course they have the compass up there to follow, and because then the skipper was up on the con, and he had a voice tube, and he would yell down right, left, rudder or whatever, and then next to me there was the motor mech, and he run the throttles, and of course we had 3 engines, Gray Marine engines, and he ran the throttles. We pulled up to Okinawa and just laid off out there for like a week. And the first thing that I recall it was the Americans airplanes bombed the beach and strafed it, and there was a big Jap ammunition dump that I could recall. Just we were down the deck and it just completely blew, and of course we were probably 10 miles out, and the shrapnel was hitting the deck on our ship, and of course then the next day we all went in towards the beach, but all we ever did was tow people in, and then we hauled in supplies. And we went into, they took us into some troops into the town of Naha. And of course that's where there's a big base there for the Japs. And of course they sunk the ships. We bombed the ships and sunk them all there. And there was landing craft in there. And when we went in, we had to be careful. We didn't get hung up on the stuff that was underwater. In the meantime, the Japs have come out from hiding, and things just went to pieces. And then the kamikazes came, and of course they weren't after us, but we had to stay away from the big ships in order to we didn't get caught. And the one time we did get caught, we were taking ship service supplies off of a big transport. And Jap Betty was floating around up there, a dive bomber, and I was watching it because I was on a con, and I couldn't figure out why we were letting it drift around up there, and pretty soon it came down, and well, we knew it was a Jap by this time, and of course the big ship started its engines up and pulling up anchor, and we just cast off and full bore going out, and as we went out, that dive bomber went right over the top of us and dropped the bomb practically off our bow, and put the torpedo right in the side of the transport, and blew a hole in it. And of course it was going, the engines were up at the time, and they ran it into the beach, and when we left there 18 months later, that was still sitting on the beach. I'm sure they got it out of there now, but we were 2 days out of Hawaii, and it broke down again. And so they towed us back to Pearl Harbor for another month. And I was kind of apprehensive about that because we had rented a car, and I'd had 3 traffic tickets that I hadn't, so I wasn't about to stay there. So then they shipped me off to Minneapolis. I was discharged in Minneapolis and back to Cedar Rapids. End of my tour. And